start off with a question. Guys, this is a very important topic that we're talking about. I can tell you that on the road to writing this book that we're launching tonight, I was actually writing a follow-up to this book. I was on the 5th or 6th chapter, I think, and by then, God just said, you know what, stop. There's an issue that you need to talk about. There's an issue that needs to be brought up in society and spoken about. There's an issue that needs to be acted about, and this is that which you need to write about now. And it's about that father-son connection. And I thought, okay, whoa, I'm not, first of all, primarily the father to a son, like my wife said. But are you sure? Secondly, I'm the least who can actually speak of that because, as most of you possibly might know who are my friends, I lived with my mom pretty much from grade 1, I think, or grade 2 after they divorced. And they were staying separate in different places. And I grew up with my mom raising me, like Pastor mentioned earlier. But that's pretty much the story of my life as well. So I thought, look, I'm disqualified. How on earth can I be writing about father and son? First of all, I don't have a son. Second of all, I'm a son who really never had a father. So how does that make the connection and how does that qualify me? But I suppose I can tell you now that I want to make the disclaimer that all of this content and material that comes from there is not my own. I'm not the master of all the knowledge that it is about this topic. I would be lying if I said I was. Thank you very much. And I would like to give all glory and honor ways back due, and that's to God primarily. Thank you. And then, of course, like you heard earlier, the book is based on a survey. And I would like to honor those people as well that took part in the survey. I can tell you there's a number of responses you'll see in the book that I actually received, where guys said, you know what, your questions, I'm sure like the guys that were standing here told you that they sort of ran away from answering some of the questions. There are some people who are sitting here who did not even return the survey. Some who told me that, Petu, your questions are just a bit too personal, can I not attempt this thing? Some who chose to ignore me altogether. I don't know why, possibly they read it and they thought, this is too much, or at least they thought, well, this is just ridiculous, perhaps I don't have a father, what is it that I should write about? So many possible reasons why. And out of the 120 people that I sent the survey to, I got responses from 50 back. 52, I think it was back. And of course, that's somewhat of a good response. You'll read about that as well in the book when the comparisons are made. But just to say, and to honor those who actually did participate. If you're here and you filled in that survey, please, I'd love you to stand. I'd love for everyone to just honor you. If you did fill in that survey, starting with the guys that are standing here, please just stand up and let's just give you a minute just to honor you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. And hence, therefore, all the content that you see from this book is a result of the stuff that all of these guys said, and the stuff some of the guys that couldn't make it here tonight wrote about, and about the relationship with their fathers. And I think on that, I would like to therefore ask for anybody in this room that is here that grew up in the house with a father present permanently. If you are here and you had your dad at home permanently present, can you please stand? Let's see you. Now, please just keep standing, that's fine. This is the reflection of what we have. A cross-cut of how things have been. And sadly, there are some of us who are still sitting down. Which basically means there is something that needs to be done about it. As much as you who are standing know how it was to have a father in the house, to have that love, that protection, that guidance, the people who are sitting down probably never had that. Possibly they didn't get it from an uncle or whoever else. So you were privileged, you were honored, and you who are sitting down, God made sure for a reason, whatever that was, that you wasn't there. But you have turned out the way that you are, and God is still proud of you anyway. And I just want to encourage you now that going forward, let's change this picture. In a decade or so, when we ask this question, can we be sure that everybody in the building can stand? Gallantly and proud. Thank you very much. So, the question I've been asked a lot, really, is why this book? And I think I've touched a bit on that. This book I didn't write. I always say this, I didn't choose to write this book. This book chose me, And I'm really thankful and grateful to God for that opportunity to have done that. And for you to be honoring us tonight by filling up this place and having it. But these are the three reasons that I give. Firstly, to contribute to the conversation. Now, like I said earlier, we've heard the stats. We've seen the results thereof. We've seen society impacted and torn apart as a result of people growing up without their fathers in the house. Now, so what is the question, like I said, and I'm hoping that this book, like I said earlier, is the beginning of that conversation to say, what can we therefore do about it? What can you and me, sitting in here tonight, do about it? That sounds like my daughter, is it? Probably not, but anyway. So the first step is to realize that we have a problem. She's saying amen, I think. The first step is to realize that we have a problem before we're going to try and fix it. And that, therefore, thenceforth is the problem that we have. We have 6 out of 10 children today who are growing up in a family without a father. You saw the people that were sitting down in this place today, and that's only a reflection of what we're currently having in society as a deficit of fatherhood. Now, why is that important? We'll get to that. Secondly, or before I talk about the second thing, there's actually different types of fatherlessness as well. The first part being a father who was absolutely absent. You heard an example like that. I've never known my father, or I only knew him, perhaps I saw him once or twice, or etc. That's one of the things. The second one is a previously present but now absent father. Perhaps father was there initially in your life as you grew up until grade 5 or 6, perhaps like myself, or he died, or he remarried, or etc. etc. But he was for a brief period in your life available, but then unavailable. And sadly, there's the third part as well, where we have fathers who are in the houses, like somebody mentioned here as well, but they are not at all related to their children. They are not at all engaged in any manner of sorts with their children and their offspring. And that already also falls in this. So it's a wide phenomenon, really, and it encompasses a lot more people that we have. Possibly some who are standing here can actually say, you know what, Daddy was there in the house, but do I really know him? No. The second thing is to try and frame a model as well. So, like he said earlier, we all become fathers at some point in time. Well, most of us are privileged by God anyway, because not by choosing now, is it? And when we do become fathers, sadly, our kids don't come with a box or a manual of instructions on this is therefore how you shall raise this little beautiful creature. They're beautiful to everybody else, by the way, but when they cry at 3 a.m., it's something else. But what therefore do we say is the model? What does good fatherhood look like? A lot of fathers want to know, have I been a good father? Have I done the right thing with my children? Have I done them right? He does a survey. Wow, congratulations, Moody, that is something. I don't think I'll take that chance with my kids, because what I say is gospel, they must just deal with it. But I'm hoping we can provide therefore a two-way mirror of sorts to say, as a father, have you done well? How do you check that? Let's see what the sons are saying from what the fathers have done in the generation before us, but as well as a son. Now that I'm stepping into the fatherhood, how then do I therefore become a good father and possibly better than the model that my father was before me, or if there was no father before me, how do I at least have a frame and a reference of mindset to say this is how good fatherhood looks like? That's the thing. And the second reason is to say now, and the final reason, the third and final reason why this book has been written, at least from my perspective, is the reconciliation and forgiveness that needs to take place within society. For some or most of us, we have some sort of a non-existent relationship with our fathers. How do we make it better? Are those like dancing? Yeah. Oh, cool. What then do we do about it now? We realize that we have a problem. Sure, I'm not really talking to my dad a lot. I'm not really calling him a lot. We just talk about my dad, for example. When I was a bit older, I think that the main things we spoke about, firstly was the weather. So how's school? No, school, great. No, yeah, we're doing great. Yeah, no, everything's fine. Go to the Kumkabarwita say, oh man, this Mugabe is messing up, man. What is it doing? So, weather, school, politics. Thank God he's gone, by the way. I just need to say that, I shall not mention anything about the replacement thereof. But that's the other reason we need to talk about. We need to have, therefore, a compass of sort to how we, therefore, define reconciliation that needs to take place between our fathers and the current generation of sons. I'll also mention and touch on the thing that Pastor said on earlier regarding the time. I'll get to that. So those are the main 3 reasons why this book has been written. And I think I just want to touch, there's a scripture in the Word as well that kind of really spoke to this to me. It's in Malachi. the 4th chapter and the 6th verse, the first part, it reads thus, and he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers. It's a two-way process. In as much as you, as a father, possibly you have a son or a child or a daughter somewhere, like what is saying, a seed that you possibly know. You have not told your wife about it. You possibly have not even told anyone in your family about it, but you know who it is. Is that girl you impregnated, like 9 paternity, like ran away from it. Seek out that child, hopefully, while she's in your time. If you know that your father exists somewhere in London, our copy is still outstanding, you know that your father is there and is alive, you don't have the luxury of time. It might be too late. Perhaps you think I'm old, I'm 36, I don't have any chance of forming a relationship with him. But guess what? How can you know until you try? But that reconciliation and that forgiveness needs to take place so we can move forward at least and become a better generation of fathers ourselves in the future. And as such, I'd really like to touch on a few issues that are reflected and touched on in the book. And like I said, I'm not taking any credit or any glory for any of this content, by the way, because all of it comes and is inspired by the response that I got from the survey. Of course, you did not do the survey, Chief. I see you. Right, so we touch on the role of a father. What is the role of a father? Why do we have fathers? Besides him being a sperm donor, like Lamli bluntly put it on earlier, what is there that is important that a father should do? Should he even be in the child's life? And if not in his life, what is the impact thereof? Now, these are some of the issues that we touch upon. And you will hear some harrowing stories and some encouraging stories that touch on that as well. But some of the things that came out very importantly and very prominently from this survey is that a father needs to provide advice to his son. You need to be the father that says, son, this is how you treat a woman, for example. Did anybody get that from their fathers by any chance? 1, 2, Luzugo, you got that from your father. He's on radio every day talking about love, all these things. Perhaps now we understand why. You know, you need to provide discipline for your children. Who else would discipline your children if you don't as the father of the house? We put our children in schools and in churches and Sunday school and hopefully expect that they'll get all the lessons that they need to get from there. But what about you? What is it that you are doing as a father? That's another thing that came out of the book as well very strongly. Provide. That's no question about it. Everybody knows a man must provide for his family. You must provide for your children as a father. That's just a core responsibility that you have. Protect. Who else? Who provides protection from your children? I'm not talking just physical protection. But when your son, with his smartphone, sits in that room and begins to go to those sites and checks out those ladies, who is there to protect that child and tell him, son, you cannot be going in that direction? I must tell you a short story though. There's a son of mine I stayed with a few years ago, and some of you might know the story. He told me he wanted to do some research for his homework, etc. Oh, great stuff, fine. And I use your Wi-Fi. Perfect, go for it, that's the password. You know, Wi-Fi. So I had strict times for him where he needed to study. You know, I went to boarding school, so I knew at a certain time you had to go to study and sit at your desk. Whether you're studying or not, you don't have a choice but to sit at your desk until the time. So you study whether you like it or not. Our kids are going to do it, just like that. So, now I go, I'm thinking, hey, let me be a good father figure here, try and help my boy do his homework, you know. I mean, I'm really feeling love, I'm feeling inspired, I'm in shock, I need to do this thing, and I go and walk up, and I go to the computer, you know. The stuff that I saw there shocked me, because he was already now checking out them ladies. It was very, very, very spiritual type things. That's the research is doing at homework time. So, if we don't take that responsibility as fathers to monitor what are our children watching, which sites are they looking into, who are their friends, who are they spending time with, who's depositing principles and ideologies into their minds when I'm not there, who will protect your children? You have to do that, sir. The other thing that came out about as well is what fathers teach their sons. Financial intelligence is one of those things that you know. You don't have to sit down with your son and show him how to debit and credit. We've got a whole CFO here, so let me not embarrass myself and talk accounting. I'll stay away from that. But do you know that your son learns just by watching? Just by seeing how you handle your finances in the house, he already sees. You don't have to be rich, you don't have to be poor, you don't have to be in this LSM segment or that. that which you have and how you manage it, he already sees. I was talking here earlier about how his father used to take money from him, money that's in him, so that he can do what? Go and drink alcohol with it. And already, if it was not for the love and the grace of Christ, where would he be? Possibly, how would he be viewing how to use his financial astutely, or otherwise we'll never know. But that's the thing that we teach our children without even saying anything about it. They know that I need to learn. This is how money works. The other thing is what I came out is the effects, like I spoke about, of growing up fatherlessness. There's a lot of stats that's on this. You can go to the internet, pull up a number of stats. But let me give you a few that might actually just shock you. The survey says 71% of high school dropouts come from houses without fathers. 71%. 70% of youths in detention facilities come from a home without a father. 80% of rapists, 80%, 8 out of 10, come from such a home where there's no father in the house. And 90% of street kids. Now, you can think, perhaps a coincidence, perhaps there's just intersections happening there, but we can't run away from the truth of the matter to say there is an important role that a father plays in the child, in the life of a son. And I just want to put a disclaimer here as well to say, you know what, we might be talking about fathering sons here, but most of these things, as the ladies in here will know, apply to ladies as well. So perhaps I was asked to read the other day, I was asked to read. About the lady side of things, you know, does what I'm talking about in this book apply to the ladies? And I'm sure most of it does, but I cannot say authoritatively until I speak to the ladies themselves. So ladies, maybe sometime soon let's have a conversation, yeah? And yes, my wife always rocks up at such conversations to make sure that, you know. Now, I grew up, for example, like I told you earlier, with my father not really permanently in the household. The divorce was finalized when I was grade 1, and for most parts, therefore, from then I was growing up with my mother. And I think there was a massive shift because my dad was a very successful man, you know. Some point in time we had a massive house in Harare. We were living the life. Things were great, and you know, he was the man, you know, and he was tall, dark, and maybe not as handsome as I was, but he was okay. Now, when the divorce happened, we moved now. I think we're staying in a 2-bedroom house. No, 2-room house. One of the bedroom, another the kitchen, or something like that. But you can just imagine the move from financial abundance to almost nothing, you know. And to sleep now when you had your own bedroom, but now we all have to sleep in one room. Now, my heart really goes out to when I drive past Deep Club and all these people that are living in shacks. You know, sometimes don't even notice it. I've just got a flight to Lanzaria. I just take the flight, I go to Durban, I do what I got to do, come back, and just drive past. Shame, man. We don't really understand and put ourselves in those people's feet and how they live their lives. You know, how does intimacy take place in there? How does all it's mad just thinking about how people are so impoverished out there and they don't have just the little things that we take for granted. So I think just to highlight that is what I moved. I was very much a young kid, and I like I'm saying, I possibly wouldn't have really seen much of a difference. Okay, the big house is gone. Oh, okay, we just got a little house now. Oh yeah, the great big 7 colors is gone. We just have 2 colors now. Okay, you know, the great nice uniforms are gone. Now I have to deal with 1 pair of shoes for 3 years. Well, that's fine. But as I grew up and started to understand now, you know, when kids are talking at school, oh, my mom and my dad, draw a picture of your parents, and me, I draw my mom, because that's the person I know, right? And my sisters and my brothers. And you're asking yourself now, where is this guy? What's happening? Where is he at in my life when I need him like everybody else needs their dad? They have their father. And not to say we had a bad relationship, I had a good relationship with my dad. And I think the thing that really was an issue was that I had a lot of anger in my heart about that abandonment or lack of his presence as well in my life, for most part that is. And so, I had a sermon, I think I moved away, like I said, our conversations are framed as such, politics, weather, and the impending death of Mugabe. Can you believe, my dad's been dead now for 10 years and Mugabe is still alive? I must. So anyway, I moved on with life. I was going to go to the States at some point in time. That was the plan. I'm going to go study in the States, you know, I'm going to come back a very successful young Zimbabwean, we're going to change the country, etc., etc. The Americans are like, no, too many Zimbabweans are going to the States, we're not going anywhere. Our demand visa journal. Okay, cool. So what do I do in the meantime? Well, your cousin is working in Cape Town. Perhaps you can just go and work there in the meantime. I was working in a restaurant in Spur. Yes, I was a waiter at some point in time, and I was dependent very much on people's tips, you know, and that was my lifestyle. I had to smile. Can I get you another drink? Is your food okay? In my heart, I'm thinking, go away already, you evil customers. So, for some part of my life, that was, you know, the thing. And I went to church the one day, just to bring the long story short, and the preacher at the church that day was talking about how we need to honor our fathers and mothers. And he emphasized on not good fathers, not the best mothers. The word says honor your father and mother. That's your day, isn't it? And I thought, no, I'm gonna get this into this. Because surely he doesn't know my story, right? I mean, I'm angry at this man. I'm really, really angry that, you know, he really hasn't been there for most part of my life, and suddenly I'm just supposed to honor him, possibly seek him out and have a relationship with him. It's not gonna happen. And I wrestled with that word for a long time. I think this was 2006, 2005, thereabouts. It's only until 2010, 2009, that thing was enforced upon me. Now, there's two gentlemen in this building. Thank you that you are here, actually. I didn't want to tell you this, but now that you're here, I just want to expose you. There's one is Tamim Kobozi sitting right at the back there. A very dark gentleman. I don't think you'll see him in the darkness. But the other one is Zippo Zumu sitting right here in front. Now, these two gentlemen were working for Accenture at the time. We'll connect to the story you hear just now. And they were being abused, and they were calling Mufaro at the time, I remember, because they were working for SARS. SARS was abusing them so much, I don't know what the contract entailed, but they worked until the wee hours of the morning. Now, they didn't have transport, and I had access to my sister's car at the time. She was in the UK, in some holiday of sorts. So they say, they call me at 2 a.m. We are kind of stuck for transport here. We don't know how we're going to get home. Do you mind coming and giving us a lift? Oh, coach, you know me, Mr. Ronald. Hey, anything goes. I go, I take them, I pick them up, and I drop them off. But before we do that, they're like, no, let's buy McDonald's. We sit at McDonald's, we chat into the early hours of the morning. I think it was like 4 a.m. or something, then I end up going back home. Now, I get to work in the morning. Now, the night, I didn't really sleep, right? And then the African sun, look, in Zimbabwe we've got snow. I don't know how you guys deal with this winter. So, that day was like super hot, man. And I'm hungry on top of that. So naturally what's going to happen is, I was feeling dozing off. And this is what happened. I didn't expect this, but the owner of the company called up his mentor to come and give us a talk on, you know, service excellence and all that kind of stuff. And 90% of the time, I think I was just in that thing. So, guy doesn't say anything to me. I take the notes, I go, you know, we work day done, right? 5 p.m., who cares? Lo and behold, he tells my boss that, you know what, you've hired a useless employee there. He was sleeping the whole time. He didn't listen to anything I was saying, etc., etc., etc. And now my boss's attitude changed. Now, for those who worked with me, they know I'm the nice guy. I'm the peacemaker. I'm the joy maker. There's Alma. She can testify to that. People were fighting in the office, and I'll be like, oh, come on, guys, let's laugh. Let's just laugh each other. I was that guy, you know? So all of a sudden, that relationship that I had with my boss, a very good relationship, suddenly turned sour. And I thought, you know what, this time, I just look for another job. I mean, I'm talented, right? I'm Ronald. Who's this guy? Anyway, I look for a job, I get the job, and I paid in my resignation, I think, to serve my 1 month's notice. I say it's very sweet, it's fine. You don't even have to serve notice, I'm going to pay you all your money. Just go. Oh, cool, whatever. Nahamba me. So now I've got a month, right, that I'm just sitting at home, paid for, before I start my new job. I'm like, what can I do now? I can't really twiddle my thumbs. Oh, by the way, cousin of mine is getting married in Zimbabwe. What can I do? Take the bus, let's go to Zim and attend the friend's wedding. So I attend the wedding, everything is great, and during that time, I get to meet with my dad. He says, you know what, accompany me, let's go to the rural areas and pick up something, etc. I said, ah, cool, we go. On the way back, now the the truck that was driving breaks down. He's close to Mazoe Dam somewhere. If you know Mazoe Dam, you know. And it's just the Bundu somewhere. 4 p.m. our sun is about to set. And you know, we are now stuck, me and him. So, how's school? School is alright. Hey, it's hot today. It's hot. So he calls his friend, and friend is only going to come through, I think, in another 3 or 4 hours, something. Now you can imagine. I think, oh my God, what are we going to be talking about for the next 4 hours? I was 28 at the time, I remember. So anyway, the weather, the politics, and the stuff fades away, and we talk about the real issues. Okay, Faith, that's what happened, because I don't understand. Why did you leave mom? What happened there, you know? I'm very much a inquisitive guy, and I was telling my wife the other day that people like me or don't like me because I ask questions, shame I ask questions. So I asked my dad, what happened, and we spoke at length about what happened, you know, the divorce, and why he wasn't really there, the guilt, the shame, and all those things. And in that short space of time, I had a reconnection time with my dad that I never imagined I'd had. I would have been the stupid guy to say, no, he died, I never cried because I never knew had love for a stranger. Anyway, so we had that conversation, and it was deep, and it was great, it was gratifying, and forgiveness took place on that night, I should say. Lo and behold, he's in an accident a week later, and a week later he died. Now, just rolling back, so Tammy and Zippo, they were my first, that McDonald's, yeah. I look at all the sequence of events and how everything just came together, and I realized that God set me up. He gave me the word almost 6 years earlier. Forgive your dad and speak to him and fix issues with him, and I didn't really listen to it. I rejected that word. But guess what? He makes sure that things happen in such a way that I had to sit with my dad in the dark of night, no light, no nothing, and we had to talk. And we talked. So I had that chance. I had an opportunity. You might not have it. And hence I'm saying the issue of forgiveness, the issue of reconciliation needs to take place whilst you still have the chance in the living years, like Mrs. said earlier. And so this is just one of the things that I really want to take. So one of the other things that really came out as well very, very strongly in this survey by the gentleman that really took part in it is that people say, I want my dad to tell me that he loves me. Now, we know African fathers generally, I mean, yeah, a hug, odd here and there. And for, I think, if not 100% of the guys, there's most probably one or two that said their dad actually said it, verbalized that they loved them, you know? And secondly, that they are proud of them. These are the things that your sons want to hear from you, Dad. And I'm going to ask now, seeing that we're here, I mean, might as well do something practical, right? Are there any dads sitting in this building that came with their sons? Or any sons in this building that came with their dads? If you're there, please stand up with your son. Stand up with your son. Let's see you. Let's meet you up. Let's greet you. Now, I'm going to ask you to do something very difficult. And I'm going to ask Dad to tell son that you love him. Very difficult. Please, why are you sitting down, sir? Go to your father and get the blessing. Dad, please tell son that you love him and that you are proud of him. I'll just give you a minute for that. Go for it. Let's do it. Now, it's a small step, really. There's possibly only 4 or 5 sets of fathers and sons that are in the building tonight. What I'm trying to say is, guys, we need to just practice this thing. Let's just do it. We still have the life in our lungs. We still have a chance, we still have time. At least we think. But whilst we can, let's just do it. Tell your sons you love them. Tell them that you're proud of them. There's nothing that's really wrong with that. And really, in line with that as well, I like all the men in the building to stand as I wrap up my speech. All the men in the building. I don't know if anybody of you watched Courageous. I don't know if you watched the movie Courageous. Not? 50 Shades. There's a movie called Courageous. Ask Kola. And I would just like us to do a small pledge. I just customize it slightly so it can fit what we're talking about today, but I'd like you to publicly declare if that's fine with you. Is that okay? Great stuff. Men, let's stand. Let's do this thing. Whilst we're here, let someone do it. Ladies, wives, you're listening to your husbands as they talk, as they speak, as they could make this declaration that you will hold them accountable to. Yeah? Right hand on your chest. Right, let's go. I do solemnly resolve before God to take full responsibility for myself, my wife, and my children. Come on, yes. Oh, yeah. Very good. I will love them, protect them, serve them, and teach them the word of God. Sure. Come on.
I will bless my children and teach them to love God with all their hearts, all their minds, and all their strength. I will train them to honor honesty and live responsibility.
Come on.
I will work diligently to provide for the needs of
Oh, hallelujah.
I will seek to honor God, be faithful to His church, obey His word, and to do His will. I will courageously work with the servant God of Christ, fulfill His resolution for the rest of
Amen. As for me
and my house, we will serve the Lord.
give yourselves a hand. Come on. Ladies, you heard that. They made the pledge. They spoke it. I didn't force anybody. I didn't put a gun to anybody's head. They said it themselves. Now, I would ask that you hold them accountable to that. It might look like just a fun thing we're doing tonight, but I really hope you can take to heart those words. Take to heart those things that you say and act upon them. Live upon them and become that which God has created you to be. Finally, Fundis, your spirit of discernment is too much, man. Because I was going to play the song. And it comes out and reads out my song. Like, what's up with that? Stealing my thunder right there. So, it just goes to show how much in sync the message is. So, I just like the guys to just play the song. It's got the lyrics on the screen, so you can just see what I'm trying to reach at here. It kind of speaks exactly to what you're trying to do tonight. And hopefully you can step out of this building and act upon these things.